Let's go.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of the collaboration between the Veritas Project and Investigator Todd. And as always, I'm here with the founder of the Veritas Project, Robert Curtis.
Hello.
And I am Investigator Todd Boyer. And we're coming to you today with, supposed to be episode 4, but episode 3.
Episode 3.
We made a trip out to Cahokia Mountains this past weekend. And of course, it was the only windy day we've had for the last month. So
Yeah.
all our audio was trash.
It was unbelievable.
So we are going to revisit Ghost 101 because we realized after listening to the podcast, after we put it out there, that we didn't actually teach you guys anything. We just told a lot of ghost stories.
Right. So we're going to establish our baseline by telling you what sort of things you need to start out with, equipment that you can invest money in, and stuff that you really shouldn't bother spending money on as a new paranormal investigator.
So if you're just starting out and you are going on your first investigation, we want to remind you that it is like fishing. It's sitting around in the dark and listening. It's not going to be exciting and things jump at you.
Right.
But the most basic piece of equipment is your phone. You're going to take 1 million pictures.
Yeah.
I mean, legitimately, you want to take 100 or more pictures.
Yeah.
And that's for a 3-hour investigation. You also want to use the voice memos on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
The microphones are made for picking up voices. They're great for using for EVPs. I know that Bob and I both use iPhone.
Yeah.
So what we have on our phones may be different if you have something
Android,
other than
or if you're one of those Pine phone people.
Pine phone. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the most basic of items for ghost hunting, and then we are going to work our way up to the flashy, fancy, big old bucks kind of stuff.
Right.
So with the phone camera and the like I said, the voice memo for your EVPs, those are going to be great. They work great. That's what I used in the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what Bob used in the beginning.
Well, no.
Oh, well, that's true. You were well before the
Yeah.
We
In the beginning, when I first started ghost hunting, we used a Polaroid camera and a tape recorder that you had like a separate microphone on it, and it was like, I still have it in there.
So Ghostbusters looking.
Yeah, it was it slung over your shoulder. It was a huge tape recorder, and it had a little microphone, and you would walk around like you were Peter Venkman with this gigantic thing. And video recorders back then were so expensive, but even in the 90s,
and huge.
They were enormous and expensive, and there's no way that us, working at Pizza Hut or whatever, could afford to have a camcorder. But you could afford a Polaroid. The Polaroid film back then was cheap. You could buy it everywhere. Take a bunch of Polaroid photos, and then you'd have them all laying out on the table, and everybody'd come by and be like, "Ooh, look what you caught!"
And that's the best way you could see it, like right away.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're sending it off the photomat, getting it back a week later.
Right. It would take you a week
real
to get your
110 camera.
35mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next thing we want to talk about, nice and cheap and easy, is trigger objects.
Yeah. You won't believe the results you get from having a good stable of trigger objects. And you need to do research on what environment you're placing them in. Because if you're going in for a home investigation, like Hot Wheels or even, little dolls from the dollar store work fantastic.
Yep. I have like a little plastic unicorn.
Oh, yeah.
That I just set and hope something knocks it over or whatever. And I have Hot Wheels, a bouncy ball.
Yeah, balls, those little...
If you can, the best one is, you want a not good one.
Right.
You want one that has like a little divot in it, so you could set it on that little divot,
right,
so it doesn't just roll away.
That's what I was going to say. One of my favorite trigger objects is like a broken doll from like a thrift store, because it won't stand up. So if you just kind of prop it against something, like a stiff breeze will knock it over, and that's always because the ghost doesn't have a lot of energy that it can, despite what you see in a movie where they can throw children around a room,
Drag Carol Ann across the kitchen
yeah,
floor.
it might take a week's worth of storing up energy for them to move a marble across the floor, so
And marble's another one,
yeah,
especially if you could find antique cat's eye marbles.
right, old marbles,
Yep. I recommend looking in an antique store for those.
yeah.
Because obviously the newer marbles don't have the energy. We talked last week about things storing energy.
Storing energy, right.
So it's better to have the antique marbles for that case.
And the proper use of it, too, because I didn't know this. We would scatter marbles across the floor and say, here, go ahead and knock these over. But the marbles that we are using are the target marbles, not the shooting marbles, right? The bigger marble is the one that you shoot at the little marbles.
Right.
And a kid from that era would know that. So
and they wouldn't move the
right. They
the
wouldn't
target
move the little ones.
Gotcha.
They would try to move the big.
You know what?
ones,
I've made
right?
that mistake.
Yeah.
I have made that mistake. I didn't even. You just brought something to my eyes.
So you have to realize that the era that the spirit was from, they might not know, what a Hot Wheel even is if they're not from at least the
Right.
60s.
Well, if you could find, do you remember those old die-cast metal cars?
Oh yeah, I have like 3 of them upstairs.
Yeah, if you could maybe throw those. And what works great for those is if you go to like Dollar Tree, or if you go to one of those discount stores, they have the separated boxes with the little separated compartments, the compartmentalized white boxes. You
Yeah.
can fit batteries, and I put all my trigger objects in those boxes.
Yeah.
So you're still only spending $1 or $2 for that compartmentalized box to hold all your trigger
yeah.
objects and your batteries.
The thrift store is your best friend for that kind of stuff.
Yep. Then so now when you're looking to spend a little money, now you've done an investigation or two with just your phone. Now let's start getting some, we'll call it junior ghost hunting equipment. EMF detector. And there are several out there on the market. The ones you see on the TV, you'll find those everywhere. The ones with the 5 lights that go green to red.
Oh yeah, like the K2.
Yeah,
K2
the
type
K2.
meter.
And a lot of people don't know, but a lot of those meters are a push button only. So
Yeah.
you have to hold it down if you want it to work. But you could take a penny and slip it in there.
Or a dime.
Or a dime, yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll hold that button down for you. And then
Or-
you don't have to walk around with it, holding it all the
If
time.
you get saucy, you can always wire a switch in there too.
I like to do them home projects, don't you?
Yeah. But if you get tired of holding it down, because believe it or not, your finger moving, the button, if you're trying to hold it with your hand, can actually cause it to go, because it zeroes itself out whenever you let go of it. So if you move your finger just a little bit while you're carrying it, it'll actually flash a bunch of times, just like you're getting a false positive, sort of.
Now, with the EMF detectors, something we actually were just talking about before we started, you can get phone interference.
Yeah.
So if you get a text and your phone is somewhere near that EMF detector, it will set it off.
Yeah.
It will absolutely set it off.
Even having it in your pocket, if it's trying to get data from a cell tower in your pocket and you're holding the EMF meter in your hand at chest height, it'll still go off because that EMF field from your phone is that strong, trying to reach out to a tower.
So let's go ahead and talk about the best practices and how to use an EMF detector in the field, because that's what we're here for. We're 101 now. We're teaching.
Right.
So go ahead. I'll let you start.
The best way that I've found is to use your devices independently. So, like, turn on your voice recorder on your phone, and just walk around and do like a baseline, ask questions. Even things that you would think to ask like a homeowner if you were looking at the house. Like what is behind this door? Where do these stairs go? Things like that. Because you'll be surprised that a spirit might be a little helpful if you're walking around asking them regular questions about you would the homeowner, and that's my bedroom or something will come through as an EVP, and a lot of time in more advanced way of doing EVPs that I like to do is have two recorders. So I have a little Sony stereo recorder that I'll just put in my pocket in like my shirt, and then I have my phone recording because the phone actually it's designed to hear voices, so the microphone in it is more designed for hearing a voice, and you can go so that way if you get a positive on the phone where you hear an EVP and then you pull out your other recorder and you check it, you might hear that one that captures the environment better, and it heard a door creak. But on your phone, it sounds like an old woman's voice saying something. So it's nice to have that
Double check,
verification,
yeah.
right? And that's what we're all about at the Veritas Project. We want evidence. We don't want spooky stories for the Travel Channel.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a skeptic.
Yeah, I
My,
am
you
totally.
have to have, excuse me, you have to have evidence slap me in the face. I mean, it has to be right there. It's no, well, look at this. It kind of looks like, nope, it's got to look like it. Not kind of.
Right.
It's got to be there for me to go, yeah, that's some good evidence.
Yeah. Or look at this orb I caught. Like, yeah, and if you play the video back, that's right when the air conditioning turned on.
Right. Right.
Right.
I lost my best video of an orb. I don't know what happened to it. I must have had it on another phone. But it was an orb that appeared out of nowhere. It was in one of the places that's really haunted. I won't discuss it because it's owned by another paranormal group. But it appeared and slowly floated in a straight line up near the boards about 2 feet, then disappeared, then reappeared about 3 seconds later and took the same line back.
Huh.
So that's the best orb I've ever got. And it was, there was no movement like a bug. I
Right,
mean, it
right.
just, infrared, you could see it. It just moved over, vanished, reappeared, moved back. So, sorry, I digress.
No.
I got off the tracks there.
But if you ever encounter a person who's a big orb person and they're like, well, look at this, like, all you have to do is grab a pillow off the couch and stand next to your camera and then just slap it a couple times and you'll see at least 10 orbs fly past.
Yeah, a lot of dust in
Yeah.
the IR light. So with the K2 meters and the EMF detectors, a lot of times people walk around till they find a hot spot or whatever, but you need to get a baseline of the whole house
Right.
to see if, what's going on. Like we discussed last week, your whole house could be hot EMF-wise. If it's not, that's awesome because now you've got a great place to set up and ask questions. And you can explain to the spirits, okay, see that green light on the ground? If you come towards it, it'll light up more lights, and explain to the spirits, and you can get them, coming towards it. It'll start.
Right.
It's great for an intelligent haunting. You can start to ask questions. If it's a yes,
Yeah,
can
move
you light those
closer.
lights up? Move
Right.
closer. And that's a good way to use an EMF detector.
Yeah.
And there are other EMF detectors out there. I have a 2-in-1 that's got a thermometer in it.
Yeah.
It reads ambient air temperature, and then instead of it having lights, it's actually digital. But once it goes above a
Right.
certain point, it lights up red.
Yeah, the millimeter
So-
does that too. And like we were talking about old school equipment, the tri-field meter back in the day was like the gold standard for EMF detectors because it did, I forget what the three fields are, but I know RF, EMF, and I can't think off the top of my head what the other one is, but you could it was really really sensitive, but you could also flip it to a different mode and it was a lot less sensitive. So you could track down EMF that was coming from a refrigerator or the furnace or a bad wired fuse box or something like that.
So yeah, so when you are using EMF detector, you do have to be cognizant of where you are in relation to anything with an electric field.
Speakers.
Yeah, speakers, like I said, the phones, lights, microwaves,
Yeah.
anything that uses electricity has the potential to put off an EMF field even when it's not on.
Right.
So you want to step towards it, step away from it, high, low, go up and down with it, move all
Yeah.
around. If you're catching an EMF field literally in the middle of a room at 3 feet high and only at 3 feet high,
Right.
that's something to look at. That's something to take pictures of, and maybe set up a little bit of an investigation at that point. So, another relatively cheap piece of tech is the IR temp gun.
Yeah. You can find one of those laser temperature guns at like Harbor Freight, or you can find them at like Napa. People use auto mechanics use them for testing radiators.
Yeah, they're relatively cheap. You can get them for under $15, and you can get the really cheap ones for like $10. And basically, what you're going to do is you're just going to point it at a location. Once again, you're going to get a baseline for the house, point it in a bunch of different locations, and then you're going to use it to look for cold spots. It's that simple.
Yeah, that's because the theory back in the day was that when a spirit was trying to absorb energy from the environment, that it would get cold there. You know, because they would be taking in the static energy. And so you wanted to look for a cold spot, and then whenever we found a cold spot with the temp gun, we would take the picture with the Polaroid. So you can still do that today, but pictures don't cost as much.
Yeah,
anymore.
you can just sit there and snap away. Like I said, you need to be taking 100 pictures.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of time going through all those pictures when you get done. I mean, that's a big part of the investigation. I mean, once you're there and you collect all your data.
Oh yeah, we'd go on a Saturday evening to do a ghost hunt, and then spend the next week solid going through evidence.
Yeah,
listening to tapes, watching video, going through pictures. It was a ordeal.
It's a little nicer now with the smartphones, because you could take a few, like 10 or 15 pictures, and then zoom in and just kind of scroll around the pictures a little bit.
You could look at the thumbnails,
yeah,
and kind of see there nothing.
Yeah, so that makes it. But I recommend you zoom in, because you'll catch a lot of stuff that is just kind of on the edge of your photos a lot too.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want, you can get them home, download them, and see, look at them on your computer if you want to go crazy,
or television,
or your
even.
tablet. Yeah, television, that'll work too. Another pretty cheap piece of equipment is simply a blacklight flashlight.
That back in the day was one of my trade craft like secrets to getting a really good cemetery ghost photo. I had IR light on one side of my camera and a black light on the other side of the camera, and the black light makes like a really cool like purplish blue glow, and then the IR light gives it like a bluish kind of red glow. So you would be able to tell right away if you had a good spirit photo, because it'll look crazy on your camera. You'll get a lot.
And if you see like a mist,
yeah,
or like a smoky figure, that IR makes it pop.
Right.
Yeah, it makes it glow.
And the black light usually doesn't. The black light will shine right through a mist.
Yep.
But the black light will light up other stuff in the environment too, like blood splatter and stains and handprints and things like that you might be interested in. So it's a good piece of kit you can find off Amazon for just a couple dollars.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then
Halloween stores.
I've got one that actually is a regular flashlight, and then it flips over to blacklight, so I can use it as my regular flashlight and then flip it over. And a good example of having the blacklight, the Lemp Mansion is one of the most haunted places here in St. Louis, and there's an area on the floor where one of the Lemps committed suicide. The blood pooled on the floor and actually soaked into the wood. You could still to this day go up and shine a blacklight flashlight on it, and it illuminates where that blood was on the floor in the wood. Yeah, which is a pretty nifty thing.
Yeah, when they were cognizant enough when they were restoring it that they didn't sand any of the stains out, so they put a clear like acrylic sealer on the wood floors in there to preserve the stains. So every time you go through on the ghost hunt, you can actually see the blood to this day. It's
unfortunately, I think they cover it with a rug now, so you got to roll back the rug a little bit.
Right, they don't want
if you know where to look.
Right, that's kind of a dirty little secret.
So we talked about this last week. Motion sensors, motion light sensors.
Yeah.
So that's something you want to put down a hallway or in a doorway. In hopes that it catches something coming by. And
it works good if it's a really big haunting and you can't be everywhere at once. You can set up the driveway monitor. They sell those at Harbor Freight too. You can find them on Amazon is like a, what do they call it? Like a door chime.
Mm-hmm.
The door chime or a driveway monitor, they call it. The driveway monitor is two pieces. So you set one on the wall and you have the other one like on a table, and if anything breaks the beam, then it chimes. But the doorway one, you can put in a doorway, or you can put it on a table, and whenever anything comes close to it, it'll go off itself. So you hear like a little flash, you see like a little flash of light. Some of them have strobe, or they have like a little ding dong kind of noise that it makes.
Mm-hmm.
You'll know right away when you hear that, like, oh, somebody's moving in that room and nobody's in there. Then you can move your investigation towards where the sounds, where you're getting activity from, instead of having, you know, everybody. Everybody who has a haunted location has a story about some little girl that died there, and it's all bunk. It's all completely bogus. So
It does seem like it's every place,
right,
isn't it?
don't ever, ever, ever listen to that. I always tune them out whenever they could be. I seen the spirit of a little girl in the hallway. I'm like, oh, that's cool, bro. What about this, dark basement over here? Like don't because the homeowner's telling you something, don't disregard it completely. Or the docent is giving you instructions, but don't take it to heart like that's the gospel, because a lot of times they're not sensitive, and if the spirit has stored up enough energy to let them know that they don't like them, that it's not because that part of the house is haunted, it's because the spirit is seeking them out to tell them, hey, you're kind of a jerk. Right. So it's best to rely on your own senses, and over time you'll hone it
Oh yeah.
to the point like where my wife says all the time that I'm a witch, because I can pick up a Christmas present and tell you what's in it. Just because I'm that in tune to the spirit kind of, the wavelength of spirits. Yeah.
Yeah.
The more time you spend in haunted houses and haunted locations, the better you'll get at that sixth sense of there's something going on here.
Now, I, from a young age, was so good at picking up on EMF fields.
Mm.
It's not so much the newer TVs, but the older TVs
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah,
put out a
that
huge
static.
EMF. I could walk past your house, and if your window was open, I could tell you if your TV was on. I really could. I could feel it as I walked past. And that's, like he said, it's something you pick up after a while,
Yeah.
Speaking of, I'm going to get off the rails a little bit here. I have a friend who his son is not sleeping in his room.
Mm.
When I first went to this friend's house, we walked, he was showing me around, and I said, man, there's something in that room back there. I just got a bad feeling of something creepy in that room back there. So now the son's not going to bed,
Nah.
doesn't want to sleep in there. I was over there again recently, and it feels a little weird back there still. So you and I may have an investigation
Yeah, totally.
coming up. So sorry to derail it, but you made me think about it with that feeling. So, maybe we'll have some video and stuff from that to
Yeah,
post.
our own evidence on here.
So let's talk about. Sorry, I got off track there, but let's talk about. Excuse me. What apps we use?
Yeah, the phone apps are a very easy way to get into ghost hunting, because you can. A lot of them are free, and some of them have even a trial, so you can try it for a certain amount of days and see if it's something that's going to be a kit that you want to keep. And I use the Sono X10 Spirit Box, which is like an app that plays the radio. And if you know anything about the iPhone has a FM tuner in it, and they lock it out so that you can't use it because they're scumbags. Because they want you to download the iHeartRadio app instead. So the iPhone has an FM tuner in it, but they lock it in the United States so you can't use it. But the Spirit apps and Spirit Box apps on your phone actually tap into that, and they can use it. So you can it's a legit FM radio scanner, just like the SB7 or SB11 or whatever they're up to now. The SP.
I actually have the SBX 12.
12 is the new
12.
one. Yeah.
So Bob's monitoring with headphones, so we make sure we hear our podcast and everything comes through. I'm going to turn this on.
Yeah.
And we talked about this last week of how it goes through all the frequencies on a radio dial at a fast rate. And this is what it's going to sound like. Yep, I guess I got to turn sound back on
Yeah.
my phone. I turned sound off for,
It sounds like silence.
so it's going through it now.
Yeah. And every one of those little chirps is a radio station that it's seeking past. So
And you're looking to hear voices over multiple
yeah,
seconds. So you're actually, you know, if you're listening to hypothetically 98.1, you're not, if you turn your dial to 98.3, you're not going to hear 98.1,
right,
you know. So if it's coming across multiple frequencies, then you're catching something.
right.
So,
And we get EV or the responses that are over an entire dial sometimes,
right.
where it's
Full
like a whole
sentences.
sentence. Yeah, and we get profanity over the
Oh, yeah.
the spirit box, and there's no way that someone would be broadcasting profanity over the air. You know, the satellite radio gets away with that, but you can't do that on the FM or the AM. A lot of times, if we're in the city, because we're here in St. Louis, and all of the radio stations are right here, so sometimes I'll use AM and then seek backwards through the station too.
Mhm.
So that way, if you're getting bleed, like a reflection off of another building for that frequency, you're not going to get a trail of the other frequency because we go backwards through the dial.
Right.
So, yeah, and also with our SB7, we plug it into a guitar pedal that's designed to take the hum out of stage lights, and then we put a reverb on it, so that way your mind can hear what it says a little better because it has like an echo to it, and that it kind of makes it sound spookier. They always say it's for theatrics, but really it's because you're
I find it helps.
it helps out a lot because there's like a little blip and you'll be like, what'd they say? What'd they say? You know, but people like us who listen to the thing for hours and hours and hours, whenever we hear it, we know exactly what it says. You know,
Right.
it's like, it said, don't go outside, you know, and everybody's like, I thought it said, like, don't wash with Tide. Like, no, it did not say that, you know.
All right. Now, one that I really use, and I know Bob uses it a bunch too, is the iOvilus, and
Yeah.
that's what it's called on iPhone. I'm not sure what it's called on Android, and we spoke about it last week.
Yeah.
And it's a random word generator. I'm going to pop it open here, and you're going to love this voice. Here it comes.
Ovilus. On. Fear.
So what this does is it goes through and it takes the energy in the room and creates a random word, or a word with intent.
Right.
And you almost have to.
Ovilus. Off.
So I went ahead and turned it off so it doesn't start talking. But what you do is, like I said, it's almost like tarot. You got to kind of interpret what
Yeah.
it's trying to say. I found that the word, like I said, the word agent usually
Right.
meant to us investigators. I know that, you know, the best way to do it is to take the sensitivity, have it on fast loop,
Uh-huh.
so it takes more readings faster,
Yeah, more samples.
more samples, and then turn it up to where it starts talking a lot, and then back it down a little bit.
Yeah.
And then if something's trying to talk, then it will start picking up more. You'll, rather than getting a word every 15 seconds, it'll start chattering away to you.
Right.
And in conjunction with that, something that I like to use, I have some bone conductive headphones.
Mm-hmm.
They go over my ears rather than in my ears, and I do investigations, and I will walk around and use the Ovilus and play it through those headphones, so that way I can still hear the environment,
Right.
and I hear that. And it records every word.
Yeah,
So
it-
you can go back and take screenshots of the list of the words and stuff.
It makes a little playlist of
Yeah.
everything it said,
Yeah.
and it timestamps it for you. Nah,
Must be time for you to go to bed.
that was my watch.
Uh,
Sounds like Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. So yeah, so I use that and walk around with those headphones on and ask questions. And you know, I try to interpret the data. I told you guys the story last week about that I thought someone got raped or molested, and I got that from the iOvilus.
Right.
So it's a matter of time. It takes time to figure it out. I mean, use it use it a lot. Don't use it at home.
Yeah.
Do not use it at home. Do not use any of this stuff at home.
Yeah, because the spirits that are in your house or you've drawn, that you can communicate to from that location, will learn that you can communicate with them with the device. So then they'll want to talk to you all the time, and then when you're trying to sleep or when you're doing something that you don't want to do, ghost hunting, the spirits will try to communicate with you because they know once they learn that you know how to communicate with them, then it's all over. So
It's like having the only payphone in town.
yeah,
So everybody's going to come up and
they're
try
all
to
going to
use
come
it.
over and try to use it.
And that's
yeah.
not an exaggeration.
No.
You will draw things to your house. And like we said last week, you don't want that. It sounds
Right.
fun, but you do not want that.
No.
What else you got? What else do you like to use?
Um.
The Night Eyes.
Yeah, we were talking about there's an app for the phone called Night Eyes, and there's a version of it for free in the M2 Spirit app. It's
And I know the version I have, unfortunately, is like pay, but it's
yeah,
like
they switched it to pay now.
it's like $10 to unlock
Yeah.
it, or it's like $1.99 to unlock it for a month, but $10 unlocks it permanently. And what that does is it turns up the
the gain
basically
on
on
your
your
phone.
on your camera phone, and works more in low light.
Yeah.
So it actually, already the newer iPhones have a great low light camera,
Yeah.
and this really bumps it up to a whole nother level. It's almost like
night
seeing in the
vision.
dark. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really great. And then you can take pictures and screenshots and whatnot from there.
Right.
So that's another really good app. Now, something that I meant to mention, I just thought about it because while we were sitting here talking, I was thinking about some of the investigations that we used to do. You can, along with, I was back at the blacklight flashlight, you can get a laser pointer
Uh-huh.
that comes with a lens that turns the laser into multiple lasers.
Oh yeah. We all
And you
use
can
those.
light up the whole room. Or, the Christmas lights that you point at a wall outside and it makes the green and reds.
Yeah. There's
right?
one on a pole over there somewhere.
You can put that up in a large room and put it in a corner and point it through the room. And then what you're looking for is stuff to block the lasers.
Yeah.
You will see movement in that room like nobody's business. I
Yeah.
mean, because the lasers are very intense. And if something passes in front of it, a mist or something like that, you will be able to tell because those lights will either A, get blocked completely, or B, it'll twinkle
Yeah.
because something is going in front of the laser.
One of the ways I like to use that is I'll set it up against the wall on one side of the room and then point it at the wall on the opposite side of the room, and then I put my camera perpendicular to it so that the camera can't see the laser, but the beams are shining right in front of it. So if anything comes into the room and gets hit by one of the laser beams, it'll light up like broad daylight where it is. So that's kind of a pro tip for using the laser. Like, don't shine the camera, don't point your camera at the laser beams, but point it at a 90-degree angle to it.
So yeah, actually,
So
you
that
you don't want to point it at the laser itself or the wall that it's hitting.
Right.
He's saying be sideways, so you actually are pointing at the actual
at the empty
beams
space.
themselves.
Right. So that way, when the spirit breaks the beam and lights up, you'll be able to see it, and then your camera will record it better because it's not looking at bright lasers the whole time. So that's kind of that's another, what do they call it, tradecraft pro tip for you there.
Yeah, I had a pen version,
Oh, yeah.
and man, that thing, I could point that thing. I can point at buildings like a mile away.
Oh yeah. Well, the laser technology has exploded in years, where they used to be, the size of a brick. Now they're the size of a pen
Yeah.
or a pencil even. They're super powerful. They're rechargeable. Another thing you can get from Temu for like $2.
Yeah, that's mine has that lens that turns it into
Yeah,
multiple streams.
I have that one too.
And then the only problem is you have to hold the button down. So I have one of those Velcro strips
Oh, right,
to
right.
just wrap around it
Yeah.
real tight, and then it holds it on. And I've got a couple of they use those same batteries that those like tactical flashlights use,
Uh-huh.
and I could just keep a couple of those charged. And
Nice. Yeah, my new
Use
one,
that.
it just has a battery built into it. It has a USB-C connector, and you just plug it in and it charges.
Okay.
That thing's pretty sweet. But then we have the Christmas light one that I mounted on a pole.
It works perfect. It
yeah,
works great.
it's fantastic, and you can plug that thing in to an outlet, so it doesn't need batteries, and then it's constantly making either a green or a red.
Yep.
You can switch it to either one.
Green seems to work a little better.
Yeah, green's easier on the eyes, I think, than the red is. But you can buy those after New Year's, like the dollar store or not the dollar store,
Yeah, like Walmart
CVS.
for like
Yeah,
$15.
You'll be able to get them for crazy cheap because it's a Christmas thing.
Yeah,
so
they're trying
after
to just get it
Christmas,
off the shelf.
Yeah, they just throw it away after Christmas.
So, what else? Is there any other apps that you really highly recommend, or is that it on the apps?
I can tell you what not to use.
There you go. That's helpful too.
Don't use any camera app that purports to get ghost photos, because what they do is they add a stock photo of a ghost into your photos, and people who don't know any better think, look at this cool Victorian woman. Like, yeah, did you look at the pictures for that app?
Ghost Radar. Don't get
Right.
that one.
Oh, Spud Pickles, the guy who made Ghost Radar, actually admitted that it's a complete fraud. He came out and said, like, definitively that it doesn't use any sensors in your phone. It doesn't do anything. It's just for entertainment only. It'll say there's a ghost behind you, using the little radar thing, and it's not real at all. Not at all.
Any
So-
other not uses?
Yeah, any of the ghost radars are bunk. Don't fall for it.
All right, so let's hear little noises behind us over there.
Yeah,
I know your place is haunted.
This place is haunted. It's getting late too, so it's
Yeah, we're getting towards the witching hour here.
infrared modded cameras is one of the things I want to talk about. That's a little more bougie than like stuff from the dollar store, but inside of your camera is infrared filter, an IR filter that's made into every digital camera, and you can take it to a camera shop, or if you get saucy, you can follow a video on YouTube, and you can take that IR sensor off of the mirror of your camera, and it'll still work 100%. But the photos that you take during the daytime will be blue and kind of weird looking, but your infrared night vision photos, with the IR light, will be absolutely beautiful.
Well, there are a lot of newer cameras too that have the IR built in. You just flip a
Yeah.
switch in the camera, and
But I'm just saying, like, if you want to look for like an old DSLR, you can buy an older DSLR and just pop that filter off, and then you're in business with a modded filter. And they even make a infrared filter that goes on the lens that works like a lens cap, sort of, where you just thread it on to your regular camera. You don't have to modify it at all, but then you're going to need a really bright illuminator to still take the pictures, because it makes it really dark. If the only light it's getting is
Right,
IR,
is the IR.
then it's really dark footage, but it works really good.
so IR is not visible to the human eye.
Right, at all.
It is infrared. It is off the spectrum of the visible light. So when your camera picks it up, it'll be pretty white picture. It'll
Yeah.
be like
Gray, or
gray.
blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, when your IR light is on, you won't even realize it's on.
If you look directly at it, you'll see like a dull.
But you don't want to do that because
you'll burn
you'll
your
burn
retinas
your
out.
eye out.
Right.
It works like any other light as far as that. So you definitely don't want to look directly at it. But yeah, once you're starting to get your stuff together and you're really starting to do some investigations, that's something that you can get.
Yeah. The full spectrum camera is also bunk. Don't fall for that.
Right.
Because if you're trying to take a picture in infrared, then you need to have your camera set up for infrared. If you're trying to take a picture in the black light spectrum, then you need to have it set up for that. There isn't a camera that's set up for everything. And if it's like what's the saying, like the jack of all trades but master of none, if you have your camera modified for full spectrum, then it's going to take terrible pictures everywhere. So you need to pick one and run with it.
All right. So let's talk about your favorite toy and the cream of the crop.
Yeah, my FLIR camera. The FLIR camera is like the I have arrived, ghost hunter thing. Like, if you're ever in an investigation and you want to impress somebody, like, just break out the FLIR camera, because you'll get a whole crowd of people around you. What is that?
And
like,
what is the price range on those?
I think it's like $300. I think for mine, and mine is just a little adapter that goes on the bottom of your phone. And I can't even take credit for it, because my wife bought it for me for Christmas. So
Wow, spoiled much?
I didn't even buy it. Yeah. But it shoots videos, and mine has this really cool feature where it overlays like a wireframe drawing on what it sees. So it's not just the heat in the environment, but it'll actually draw the edges of everything in the environment,
Hmm.
so that it looks like something from a movie. Then, like you can really see like there's a desk, there's a clock, there's instead of like a true FLIR, if you could turn that feature off and then just take just the heat, but then stuff looks kind of muddy and weird, and you don't know if you caught something or not because it could just be a wet spot on the wall or a draft. But yeah, the FLIR camera it is a nice thing to have, especially even if you're not doing ghost hunting and you want to like winterize your house.
There you go. Yeah.
You can walk around your house and see like how much cold air is coming in through your windows or doors or but one of my main things that we were talking about off before we started recording of using the FLIR cameras because whenever somebody's trying to put fraud out there and they're one of those people that wants to attract you to their haunted what do they call
Building
those
or-
things? It's not the it's like a rental property but for like a day. What do they call that?
like a Airbnb.
Airbnb, the haunted
or bre-
Airbnbs, right?
Bed and
They will
breakfast place.
hide speakers and lights and all kinds of stupid things in a place and then tell you that it's haunted and they want you to come investigate it so they can have your unbiased evidence to say, look, these ghost hunters came in and said my Airbnb is totally haunted. When if you have the FLIR camera on, it'll see all of those shenanigans.
Right.
It'll see where there's a two-way mirror. You can look right through a mirror like it doesn't even exist. You can see through the walls. You can see where somebody's standing on the other side of the wall or somebody's hiding in the attic. You'll be able to see the heat from their feet through the floor and be like, hey, Jerky, I know you're up there trying to put something over on us, So,
Well, along with that, I'm gonna make a few people upset here. Don't believe the TV ghost hunter people.
no.
It's all trash.
It's all theater.
It is. It's entertainment. It is
Yeah.
spliced together to make the possible best entertainment to keep you sucked in to watch the next episode.
Yeah.
It is real ghost hunting is nothing like what you see on TV.
No. And the Taps ghost hunters from back in the day, the ghost hunters, there was an era, like maybe the first couple seasons, where it was legit, But then the producers get caught in this loop where they're like, we need more evidence. We need more evidence. Our numbers are starting to sink. We need more evidence. Well, the ghost doesn't care that you need evidence, right? The producer goes in there and he's like, get me some ghost evidence. Well, then you end up becoming a fraud.
Yep.
And then people like us in this community who live in this community, we're not tourists here. I've been doing this for 30 years now, almost. We can smell a fraud. We can tell when you got a wire in your pocket, or when
Yeah, when the whole jacket pulls.
Yeah. Like we can look at that video and go, please, bro, that is the fakest thing I've ever seen. And then they discredit themselves, and then what happens is the community turns on them, and then now they're not famous anymore. Where if the producers would just let them produce real ghost videos with real actual evidence, or if you go into a place and there's not any evidence, that's still, what is that saying, the proof, the lack of proof is proof of lack, or what was it?
I don't know.
The guy from CNN said it to the George Bush when they were talking about the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, but it always stuck with me. It's like the
lack of proof is proof that it's going on,
right,
basically.
The no proof is also proof, right? Because that's what we're doing at the end of the day, is we're going to a haunted location to try to prove paranormal existence. So if you go to a place where somebody tells you that it's haunted and you didn't catch anything, that's proof, right? That's evidence that it's not haunted.
Right. Or it just wasn't active that night.
And-
I'd like to go, if I could, I would go on 3 different nights.
Yeah.
If I could go back to places that we've been, I'd like to investigate 3 times, because some nights they're not active.
There is the dead cell theory too, where a spirit will use up all of their energy and then go dormant, where the house just isn't haunted at all. They
Right.
they believe that the Amityville Horror House, by the way, is a dead cell at the current time, because the current owners say that nothing paranormal happens there at all. And if you believe, in the Lutzes and their story, then the
Now, I just thought we were talking about the fancy schmancy equipment.
Yeah.
I just remembered one that is a homemade piece of equipment that you take one of the motion sensors from the Xboxes.
Oh, yeah, the SLS.
Yep, the
Structured
SLS
light
camera, and
camera.
it is set up to recognize people.
Right. Wireframe.
So yeah, it'll make a wireframe on the screen when it sees the shape of a person, and
Right.
you can actually find these videos online of
Of how to build it.
how to build it. But not
Yeah.
just that, but a lot of people they'll be playing games or whatever, and
It'll
then
pop up
a
behind them.
wireframe will pop up next to them,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know,
yeah,
and
like
freak
Dance
them
Dance
out.
Revolution or something. The kids are playing, using it legitimately with the Xbox, and then all of a sudden, like another player will pop up next to them, and they're like, "What?"
Yep. So that's another good piece of equipment, but that's either you have to find somebody that
Yeah.
will make it for you,
And
or
yeah, because the sensor, you can find a sensor at any video game store used for,
cheap.
$20 maybe, but you have to use a Windows tablet to run the emulation software that you have to download, and there's like 3 different versions of the emulation software, and the free one is absolute garbage. The one that you get from it's like a university, I think. We just brought this up. I didn't have time to think about it.
Yeah,
But
I'm sorry. It just popped into my head, and I was like, "Oh man, that's a good piece of kit."
there's a
You know.
university that has a SLS app for Windows, and it is legit if you can get that one. But the one that's free off the internet is junk.
All right, so that's a lot of the equipment. Let's talk about questions to ask.
Yeah.
A lot of it is sitting silent, just asking questions, snapping a lot of pictures. I'm not a sitter. I'm a roamer.
Yeah, I am too.
I don't have the patience. I have ADHD, so I can't sit in a room by myself all quiet.
I will, if to get a baseline, I will sit in the room and just kind of close my eyes and listen to what the house noises are, and see, so you can hear like what creaks when they open the door, or what, you know what I mean, to
Right.
get like a baseline in your mind of where sounds come from in that house naturally. So that way, when you hear an unnatural sound, you'll have a reference to say, "Oh, yeah, that door doesn't sound like that." You know, but sometimes the residual haunting, it won't match the environment anymore because the house has been modified. So sometimes you'll hear footsteps like on the roof and think like, "What is that? This is a one-story ranch house. Like, how would I be hearing footsteps on the roof?" And then you do some research and find out that it was originally a 2-story house, but they
Right.
had a fire, and they got rid of the upper story and built a roof on it, and then just expanded out the back. So now you're hearing footsteps from residual haunting that is on a floor that doesn't even exist anymore.
Or a lot of times they buy these older homes and tear them down and then build a
Build
new house in the
the
place,
McMansion over the top of it.
and you still have that energy there. That's
It's recorded on the environment, and it doesn't match the house. So they'll say, like, "Well, the spirit walks out of the wall in the kitchen." Like, well, that used to be the hallway that went to
Right.
the bedroom, right? So the spirit doesn't know that. They're just walking, doing their rounds like they do every night.
right. So obviously, you're going to start with, is anybody here? Would anybody like to talk with us? If you feel like you're dealing with an older spirit, something that's been in an older house, then you're going to also try to explain your equipment and how
Yeah.
it's going to work, or
That's a big thing.
because they've never seen this before. We discussed this last week.
Yeah.
They've never seen this stuff before.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is.
But the places that get investigated all the time, they kind of figured out,
Right.
So that's why there is a lot of activity. The more you investigate a place, the more active it gets, because they figure out how to be seen and heard,
Right.
and so
And they want to be seen.
and they
and
want to
heard.
be seen and heard.
So they learn how to use energy, and we do kind of a cheat with our spirit box because we use a noise activated skull that has the little lightning, this little glass sphere that has little lightning things in it, and you put your fingers on it and it touches it.
Oh, the plasma ball.
Plasma ball, there you go. And ours is sound activated. So as they give a response to the spirit box, through the spirit box, it gives a little jolt of static electricity that they can then use that energy to make more responses.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So then the spirit hangs out in that area, and then the more they talk, then the more they can talk. And then you'll teach them how to use the spirit box better, and they'll, after a couple months of doing that, they could have whole conversations through the spirit box.
Now, the Iovolus, I told a couple stories last time, but while we were sitting here this time, remember, we were in a house, and we're talking about older ghosts.
Mhm.
You know, I felt that this house had a younger ghost.
Right.
Yeah, right? That, like, younger as in hadn't died 200 years ago or whatever, right?
Right.
I was in the basement by myself, and I was asking questions. I was having a halfway decent conversation, trying to figure out what was being said and everything. And then I got 2 words that made me leave the basement. I got demon and run.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
I did. I got the hell out of there.
Right. Don't be afraid to take advice. If a spirit gives you advice and they're like, get out,
Look, I got goosebumps just thinking about it again.
there's no chicken moment when you're dealing with the paranormal, especially
Oh, no.
not demonic stuff.
Yeah.
If you're one of those people who,
Right.
get out.
Yeah, and I know
You can always come back later.
our old group, we were never allowed to talk about anything that if we felt something was bad or off,
Yeah.
we were never, ever allowed to talk about that.
No.
No,
And that's why we left,
that's why we left.
right? Because sometimes it is demonic. Sometimes it is,
Or not just demonic, just, it was a bad person, and that's why
Right.
they're still there,
Or-
is they didn't cross over.
Like we were talking about last time, the RSI, your residual self-image that the spirit has, has changed over the years, and now they come across as being a giant demon when it was actually just a child's ghost. But over the years, they've lost the image of themselves, and they see themselves as a demon, and they try to do things as a demon, but they can't, at the end of the day. But people will tell you, oh, this is a demonic haunting. Like, those 2 words don't go together, my man.
Right?
You can't have a demonic haunting because it's either a demonic infestation or it's a haunting. Was it a person or are we talking about a demon? Because sometimes a demon can be latched onto an object. A person can give them, accidentally give them license to infest an object, or and then now this thing is a fetter for a demon, and it's not a ghost. But the demon, because it's not interacting with a person, it doesn't have the full energy, or it doesn't have the full ability to cause the rest of the oppression and then possession. But it can start doing, horrible things while it's attached to, a doll or a painting or something like that.
Right. So I know that, talking about not being able to talk about the darker things, there was an investigation that we did, and the person owned multiple properties on the same block. So we did, it ended up being 4 buildings actually. 2 garages. One was just a garage. One was a garage that had an apartment in it, and it was pretty big. And then 2 houses. The one house was completely gutted. And of course, activity was crazy in the gutted house because they were redoing it.
Right.
And I was in the gutted one by myself. And I got the impression that the spirit that I was talking to at that time, using the Iovolus, was a child molester. And, I could bring it up to my fellow investigators, but I definitely was not allowed to bring it up to the person,
Right.
the homeowner. So that's kind of why we left that other group. We weren't
Yeah.
allowed to
The-
fully,
like our
tell our
motto
story.
is the whole truth, right? Whether it's uncomfortable or not, it's still the evidence that we recovered, so that we're going to give it. You can candy coat it to a point, but still, if you uncover that the house is haunted by a person that was a child molester and they have a bunch of kids, you're not doing them any service by not telling them that.
Right. So is there anything else you could think of that maybe would help starting out?
Learn how to use the library, I would say, is a good resource. Get a library card. And most libraries now, if you buy a membership or you buy a library card for one, it works at all of them. So you can just go to that town's local library and go through their old newspapers and try to find where things have happened, and don't be afraid to, like, if you're going to do an investigation on like a Friday of some people's that their story doesn't pan out. It doesn't sound, it sounds too good. Don't be afraid to go on like a Wednesday and talk to their neighbor, or just drive past the place and just kind of see what it looks like at night, in the evening, and see it, you know what I mean? Like, is there
Right.
a truck route nearby, or is there an airport nearby, or is there, just things like that. Just try to build a case in your mind for what actually goes on in this neighborhood, so you're not just you're not a cold fish just walking in here and you're like, oh, look, listen to this rumbling I hear. Like, yeah, there's a quarry down the road, right? So things like that are things to think of, because we're an investigator, right? We're not a TV celebrity, right? We're there to try to help these people through their haunting and try to uncover, research to help this field expand. I can care less whether there's 100,000 people watching my TV show at the end of the day. We're about research and development, and you don't hamstring yourself by being afraid to talk to these people's neighbor and say, hey, who lived in here before these people, or maybe there's an old person in the neighborhood that can tell you some wild stories about that place. Don't be afraid to be an investigator.
Yep. And go in as a skeptic.
Yeah,
Go
always.
in always thinking, nope, this place isn't haunted. This house is innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, exactly.
Go in, and just feel it out first. Go in, walk around, get a feeling. You always want to get a tour
Right.
from the homeowner.
Yep.
What do you feel here? How do you feel in this room?
What were you doing when that happened?
Yep. What kind of activity? Is it a certain time of day? You want to pick the homeowner's brain before you start an investigation, because that'll help you narrow down where you want to look, where you want to set up shop.
Yeah.
Pendulum. We didn't even talk about something
Oh,
as
the
simple as a
pendulums, yeah.
pendulum. We didn't
Right.
even. I just bought one. I literally just bought one Saturday.
All right. I just bought one too recently.
That's
I
funny.
found a really cool amethyst one that I was all excited to use. But yeah, pendulums are a whole other thing. They're kind of like spirit, the talking boards, like Ouija boards and stuff like that, where the pendulum, it works off the same, what do they call it, motor. It's an involuntary motor response from your hand. You're the one who's actually moving it, but it's not you consciously doing it. It's the influence from the other spirit, and that's why people always believe that Ouija boards open the door to demonic entities, but it's not how it happens. Like, a spirit can influence you to move your hand a little bit, but a demon has to be invited in, right? The demon has to present itself, and then you have to invite it. That's how it works. It's a pact. A ghost is just in the environment. They were a person, so they know how your arm works. So they just try to move your arm a little bit to make you to listen to them. You know what I mean? To try to communicate with you.
And that's another super, super cheap one that you can
Yeah.
start. And dowsing rods. We didn't even touch on
Dowsing
dowsing
rods,
rods
yeah,
either.
that's another-
And those are all in my kit. I have
Which-
all that stuff in my bag.
Well witching, it was a thing. When I was little, there was still well witchers around.
Right.
The old dudes that would come out with dowsing rods, and they would tell you where to dig for a well. That was still a legitimate business back in the 70s, like you can imagine.
Okay, so the pendulum, what you're going to do is you're going to hold it above a surface, and you're going to ask yes or no questions, and you lay down a baseline. Okay, clockwise is yes, counterclockwise is no,
Yeah.
however you feel you want to do it. And then you just begin to ask yes or no questions. Now, you can get fancy, and they do make mats out
little
there
boards that have
with letters and stuff, and you
Right.
can have things spell stuff out,
north,
and it'll
south,
swing.
east, west.
So, yep, and you could do
East
that, or
side.
you could swing left, right, up and down is yes, and left, right is
Yeah,
no, whatever,
right.
however you want to set up your baseline. And that's how you use the pendulum.
Right.
Now, the dowsing rods, I love giving the dowsing rods to people who've never touched them before. That
Yeah.
is the
The look
absolute
on their face
best.
when it works. It is pretty
So,
funny.
dowsing rods, it's almost like a little balancing act. Now, you're going to try to balance these rods. Mine are collapsible, the size of a
Okay.
pen. They collapse down, they open up, and they they should swing in your hands freely. Now, mine
Yeah.
has a sleeve that makes
Right.
them
The good
swing
ones have a
freely.
sleeve
Yep.
in there.
So you're going to hold them out to where they point straight out away from you, and then you're going to ask questions. And you say, if it's yes, I want you to cross those rods.
Right.
And if it's no, I want you to spread the rods apart. And you will be amazed. Simple rods like that. And those are like $8 a pair.
Yeah. For the
Something
high end
like that.
ones, they're
They're
like
like-
$20.
yeah.
Like the
But for like the cheap ones, and Amazon, you could find those
Right.
again. So something nice and cheap and easy. And I can't believe we didn't think of those. Those
Yeah.
are like two of the like
two of the biggest things. is
two,
the-
yeah, two of the cheapest and
cheapest,
easiest to
easiest thing to
use.
use. Right.
Yep.
That's funny.
That's funny. We didn't think about those till the end. But we hope we did a little better job tonight of helping you get started rather than telling all the stories that we told last time.
Right.
We
We're
get a little
supposed to
carried
talk
away.
about equipment. We end up telling stories through the whole thing.
But yeah, you get us on stories. I mean, and any ghost hunter will do that. We want to thank you guys for joining us, and we'll head back out to Cahokia Mounds and get that podcast squared away. Hopefully, it's not going to be
Less
as
wind.
windy
Right.
next time we make it out there. And we'd like to go ahead and any final words you'd like to, any kind of wrap up?
No, I would just say trust your instincts. Whenever you're going to start out into investigations, if you think somebody is bogus, don't be afraid to just walk away. That brings up another thing that I didn't think about, the notepad. Like I like to give. I buy these little notepads from the Dollar Tree. They're like,
Yeah, take notes.
yeah, and well, what I do is I give it to the person when we do our first investigation,
Uh-huh.
and I'm like, take notes of when you hear the paranormal, when the event happens, what you hear, what you are thinking when you hear it, what time of day it is, what the temperature is like, and you'll be surprised at what if the person is fake, they won't fill it out, they won't even call you back. That's one of the things. They have to put effort into it. They're not going to do it. But
Right.
if they fill it out like religiously, and you have like 10 pages of stuff, it'll help out your
Yeah,
investigation.
because a real person will
unbelievably.
really want to know what's going on in their house.
Yeah, and somebody who's looking for attention, they won't even bother filling it out.
That's a good idea.
So that's a good litmus test for whether or not they're legit.
So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up, and we will catch you next time. And remember,
I forgot what I was supposed to say.
stay curious
Stay curious.
and find the truth.
All right.
We'll catch you next time.